Welcome to episode 3 of Echoes from the Arena. This episode is entitled simply Bob Kalsu. And Dad, you want to touch on Bob Kalsu and
I
who this gentleman was
I
and
would
why he's
love
important?
to. I would love to. I remember Bob Kalsu. He played for the Buffalo Bills in 1968. I was a sophomore in high school when he was a Buffalo Bill, so I do remember him. He was a notable player, and we'll get into that in a little bit. He's from Bob was born in 1945 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He grew up in Del City, Oklahoma, which is a small urban area in the Oklahoma City Metroplex. So around that Oklahoma City
Greater
area.
Oklahoma City area.
Yes. He was an active youngster and loved all sports. Um, he ended up playing high school football in Del City High School for the Eagles. He was a lineman and a really good lineman. Good enough to get an offer to play collegiately at sort of the hometown school, the University of Oklahoma.
Who would have also been a pretty, I would imagine, were they a big power back then?
They were a power back then. I believe their coach was Chuck Fairbanks, who had a very good record. They were a perennial um, power, I guess. It was between them usually the Big Eight, which is the predecessor of the Big 12. The Big Eight, Oklahoma and Nebraska were the two schools that dominated that conference for quite a while. And
Because Texas was not in that conference.
Texas was in the Southwest Conference. Yes, there was a Southwest Conference, which was mostly Texas schools. And then there was
That
the Big
sounds
Eight.
like a possibility for another episode talking
Yes,
about the
yes, because
old
there's a
college
lot of
football conferences
the
and what they
old
used to look
college.
like.
Yeah, because, originally it was the Pac 8,
Hmm.
which was the West Coast schools. Then it became the Pac-10.
And I remembered it as the Pac-10 for a while, and then it became the Pac-12.
Right, right. And then
Mhm.
like you just mentioned, the Southwest Conference merged with the Big Eight. It became the Big 12. The Big Ten, I remember when the Big Ten had 10 teams. And
I remember when it
obviously,
back
I don't
then,
know how many teams is in that conference now.
like 16.
I know there's two divisions, so it's
Yes.
crazy. So getting back to the Bob Kelso's career with the Sooners. He played for the Sooners from 1964 to 1967. In 1967, his senior year, he was honored by being a first team All-American. So he was on that All-American team that would always appear on the Bob Hope special and were introduced on that TV show. He was also one of their captains, and that year they won the Big Eight. They went on to play Tennessee in the 1968 Orange Bowl and defeated the Volunteers and ended up with a national ranking of three. So, pretty impressive college career.
Especially that senior year where he
Hmm.
was an All-American. So people may be wondering, why is this person important?
We shall delve into that.
Yeah.
Do you want me to continue, or do you want to kind of
Oh, go ahead.
drop some? Okay, I thought you wanted to maybe
We'll take this
drop
out in
some
post.
teasers.
We'll take
Okay,
this out in post, but
okay,
we should have done it a week ago.
okay. Yeah, we
Yeah,
should have.
we
We
should
should
have
have.
when it was around Memorial Day.
Um,
Hmm.
the That year in 1968 was the second year that the NFL had a common draft, or the NFL AFL had a common draft. In 1966, the two leagues got together, negotiated a merger, which would commence with the 1970 season.
Season.
So but they did decide that their from 67, 68, 69, it would be a common draft. So all the teams in both leagues would draft like they draft today. The schedule or the
So even though some of these players will not be playing in those leagues, in the
mhm,
other league,
right,
they would be drafted. Those players could only be drafted by one team
right.
out of that
Yes.
whole group.
Yes. Yes. Because just as a footnote, we were talking about that earlier today. Joe Namath, who
Mm,
was kind of the golden child of the AFL, was signed by the New York Jets in 1965, right after he played the that year's Orange Bowl, which Alabama lost to Texas. Signed his contract right after the game
mm.
for 400,000 plus dollars, then received a $200,000 signing bonus. Chump change these days compared to what these guys are making now, but
But the dollar was
at
worth a
that
lot
time,
different.
that was the contract. That was the largest contract at that time. And but there was a bidding war going on. If in fact, you know, Joe extended his desire to sign post Orange Bowl, the St. Louis Cardinals also were interested in him. But as we know, the Jets signed him, and that was kind of the impetus that gave the AFL legitimacy, especially with the 68, was it? 68 Super Bowl? Super Bowl
60,
three.
I
It was
think
Super Bowl 3.
68, 69 season,
Okay.
right? Yep.
Yes.
Super Bowl three.
Yes. But going back to the draft, so this was a common draft. So whatever your record was in 67, you would be put in numerical order,
Mhm.
just like we do it now. Um,
Reverse.
in that particular draft, the two Super Bowl participants, which were the Oakland Raiders and the Green Bay Packers, drafted last. So he was drafted by the Bills in the uh, eighth round. He was 199th pick overall. He had an outstanding rookie campaign. He played in all 14 games. That was the schedule in those days. The Bills did not go to the postseason in 68, so that pretty much was his career.
And what position is this?
He was a guard and he started nine of those games. So he had a pretty impressive rookie year, and I'm sure he was very much in the plans long term
For
for
the
the
future.
Bills.
Yeah.
What I did not mention is when he was at Oklahoma, he was in the ROTC program. So he had a military obligation. And after his rookie season, with us still being in Vietnam, he chose to meet that obligation. So I'm going to let you take it from there.
Hmm.
But just just one more fact before I turn it over to you. He did win the Bills Rookie of the Year. So he was an impressive, very impressive offensive lineman
His
with the future in front of him.
his college resume seems to suggest that.
Yes, it
Yeah.
did. It did.
Uh, and as a guard back then, you were not what you would weigh now.
No,
So he
no.
was approximately 6'3", 235 pounds, 240
Hmm.
pounds.
Hmm. Yep.
That was the size of a guard back then, which is now a wide receiver. But um, on to Bob Kalsu's military career. He was deployed to Vietnam in 1969 as part of the 101st Airborne. He was deployed to a remote fighter base in the middle of, I believe it's South Vietnam,
Hmm.
the Tuaten province in South Vietnam, central South Vietnam. Um, On July 21st, 1970, during the Battle of Fire Support Base Ripcord, he was killed in action by mortar fire. Um, I had read that it was 82 millimeter, but I don't know that that could actually be verified. But
Right.
he passed from inaction and was widely known as the only NFL player to die in the Vietnam War.
Hmm.
I also found out that tragically, a day or two later, his wife gave birth to their first son,
Hmm. Yep.
right?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so the reason it comes up for us is I had started going to Bills games when I was approximately 5 years old, I would say, and went to a lot of them. And at one point, I didn't catch the year, Dad. Did you catch the year on the Wall of Fame?
Yes, he was inducted in the year 2000.
Yeah, okay, there it is. So a name popped up, and I knew the names on the Wall of Fame. I knew all of them. And then a name popped up in 2000 that I had never seen before. So that I kind of have a faint memory of, I want to say I kind of have a faint memory of this, the actual ceremony of the
Hmm.
game.
Right, right.
I feel like we were at that game. Were we? It's hard to tell, but we were going to we were going
No, we were probably there,
we
yeah,
were going
because
to most games back then.
back in
Because
2000, we were going to all the games. Yes.
and
So I would say
I wasn't going
like
to
we were there.
I didn't go to college yet, so
Right, right,
Grandpa had those seats.
right.
Um,
Yeah, I think but they put them on they announced this in
mhm.
April because they announced it on April 13th of that year because that was his birthday. But they didn't officially put him on the wall until the season began. So yes, I'm sure we were most likely at that game.
Or we were at some game where they had something to do with him because I remember there
Right.
being I thought there was an honor guard and something, and
Hmm.
I remember
Hmm.
the name. I remember his
Right.
name. But uh, you had mentioned where he was born.
Hmm.
In November 5th of 2015, President Obama signed into law they renamed the post office in Del City, Oklahoma, as the James Robert Kalsu Post Office, located at 4500 Southeast 28th Street in Del City, where Kalsu played his high school football before enrolling at the University of Oklahoma.
Yes. Yes.
So ultimately, it just seems like it was a life snuffed out before it he had the opportunity to have two. So what, he was 25.
Yeah, it was
He was
young, and
asked.
that's what I think. Unfortunately, that's a legacy of warfare. That what you said is was said perfectly. You know, many lives, many young uh, lives were snuffed out way too soon. Just think of the potential that all those people
Well, I
had.
think you know, at your age, probably have a much better grasp of what that could have been.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, it seemed that looking at the figures and what I know about the Vietnam War, everybody knew somebody.
Hmm. Yep, yep. Our family was touched by with my cousin who had obviously when he came back, that's my cousin Frankie. When he came back, he said very little about his experience in Vietnam and the way he lived the rest of his life.
Kind of a shut-in, wasn't it?
He was a shut-in. He did not want to be around people. Um, he seldom would show up to family functions, and we had a lot of
Mm.
family functions back in the day.
Yeah, we did.
And
Was
I think I saw him once at his brother's house for a cookout, and then the other two times at his parents' funerals, and that was it.
mm.
And even at the funeral, he was extremely, withdrawn, quiet. So he obviously saw some really deep stuff in Vietnam. So it wasn't easy. It's not easy for anybody to be in that situation. But I just think Bob Kalsu most likely had a great career ahead of him in the NFL. He
Mhm.
seemed to be going in that way. He seemed to have that really good rookie year, and it's tough for linemen uh, sometimes. A lot more on your plate as far as blocking schemes and what have you. So he seemed to have grasped it really well.
There was a couple other notes as far as some honors that he'd had. I'd mentioned the post office. Um, my audio's coming in right, right? You can
Yeah,
hear me and
yeah,
everything?
I can hear you
Okay,
good. I can hear
good,
you good.
good. Um, in 2002, the replacement company at Fort Campbell was named in honor of him. The um, 1LTJ, I'm sorry, First Lieutenant J. Robert Kalsu replacement company.
Hmm.
As we had mentioned earlier, the 2000 Wall of Fame. Huh.
Oh,
In 1999, NFL Films produced a feature on him that was nominated for an Emmy.
oh, neat.
We should find that.
We got to find that.
Yeah.
So that's NFL Films.
Yeah.
We got to find that.
You got to find that. It's probably very good.
He also had the high school football stadium in Del City. His name, the Robert Kalso Field. And in 2024, they erected a bronze statue of him in front of the stadium. And he
Mm.
had not only his wife and two children who are both growing now, and his grandkids and kids, and then also had a gentleman who served with him in Vietnam and was very his talk was extremely touching because Bob had a way. He was a leader, and a very good leader. This gentleman was saying how in Vietnam a lot of enlisted men didn't particularly care for their officers, but in this case, he said Bob Kelso had a lot of respect by the men in his unit.
That's
So it was,
probably his background in football, I would imagine, is
yeah, I think the
especially being at
camaraderie.
Oklahoma, being
Hmm.
a lineman in the
Hmm.
trenches.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So,
he kind of relayed a story, the gentleman who served with him, that when the mortar shell hit and Kelso was unresponsive and they felt that, this isn't good, they kind of all looked at each other and said, so what do we do now? Yeah,
mm,
because he was their leader and
yeah.
they would follow him. So
See, that's what
it's
I
tough.
was looking for information like that, but
Yeah,
I couldn't
yeah,
find anything. I'm glad you were able to.
yeah,
So it just highlights the sacrifice that Bob made. Um, choosing instead of playing a sport for possibly a living. Back then, some guys had to work jobs in the off season. Probably most players had to do that. But instead of doing that, he chose to enlist and fulfill his ROTC obligation.
right,
Uh,
right.
we hear a lot about Pat Tillman around Memorial
Hmm.
Day, and I
Yes.
thought it would be important to mention Bob, especially given his connection to where we're from.
Yeah, well, exactly. Exactly.
And I did find another interesting piece of information, um, is that he was not actually the only NFL player to die. Um, there's a gentleman by the name of Don Steinbrenner, was an offensive tackle, but played a little bit earlier, quite a bit earlier. Well, he played 14 years earlier. Um, 6'3", 220 pounds, Dad, for
For a tackle.
for a tackle. Yeah.
What?
Um,
He
we,
played in those years that the Browns were just dominant.
Yes, and he played for the Browns.
Well, I
Uh,
believe he when he was coached by Paul Brown, who was um, a pretty good coach.
so he played in the 1953 season. 1954, he joined the Air Force, um, first in the Air Police, later as a navigator. And in 1954 and 1955, the Browns won their championship, the NFL championship, and um, he decided to stay in the service. So he played basically one season. Back in 1954, he stayed in the service and was unfortunately killed in a plane crash over Vietnam in July 20th of 1967. So that would have been very early in the war. Um, would that still have been like
I think
we would
it,
have would we have had would they have been called like military advisors back then?
yeah, and it was 67, however, we were most likely fully engaged because the advisors began during the Kennedy administration.
Hmm.
And
1960.
so 61,
Well, in the
62,
but
yeah,
his administration started in 60, so d
right,
during his
right,
administration.
right. And then LBJ, the LBJ administration escalated the war. So I would say by 67, I believe would have been fully engaged. I think we had quite a few troops over there by then. And
But
then
we had
in
troops over there before the Gulf of Tonkin.
now the Gulf of Tonkin is really the impetus that brought us fully into the war.
Okay.
So yeah,
Sure. July 20th, 1967, during a mission, they were spraying Agent Orange on the jungle forest canopy,
okay,
which
okay.
sounds horrific.
Oh
Um,
yes,
he was posthumously awarded a Purple Heart and this Distinguished Flying Cross, um, and is kind of now also recognized as
right,
an NFL player who passed. But he had really taken up a career in the armed forces,
right, right.
it seemed at that point. But just another of one of 56,000 American men and women who lost their
Yep,
lives in Vietnam.
yep,
And
yep.
how many more didn't, but didn't come back with um, in the right frame of mind, or I don't know,
Right,
however you want to put it, but
right, right.
or missing limbs or something.
Well, exactly, exactly. And I think all wars, this
Mm,
happens with all wars.
right. It's
I
not
don't think,
specific to this.
I
It's
just
just,
think, World War One, World War Two, we didn't have the media, frenzy like we did during Vietnam. We got to remember the Vietnam, and I remember it clearly. We'd be after dinner, we would sit in front of the TV and either watch, Huntley and Brinkley on NBC, or we would watch Walter Cronkite on CBS, and they would have Dan Rather, for example. That's where he got to start. He was a correspondent embedded in a platoon in Vietnam. So every night you got you know, how many Americans were killed today? How many Americans were wounded? How many Americans are missing in action? How many of the enemy was killed and wounded and what have you? So you saw it every night. But I think we were more cognizant of these issues, you know, of these people coming back
and the
than
argument
we
that
were in the other wars.
should we have even been there to begin with?
Exactly. Well, exactly.
And when you
Exactly.
have these people then coming home and then not being, not getting a very warm
Hmm.
welcome back
Right. Right.
for something that they really had no choice but to do,
Right.
with
Right.
the draft being instated. It just seems wild to me.
Yes.
Um, Also, it's worth mentioning, and I think it's somebody that we're going to touch on at a later time, and that's Ted Williams.
Yes.
He fought in two different wars during his playing career. Um, Fortunately, he did not sustain any serious injury during those times, but he was not exactly doing something that was very safe. He was flying a he was flying a pursuit fighter, right?
Yes, yes.
In World War II and Korea.
Most
Uh,
likely in Korea, he might have been flying a Sabre jet. I
Holy shit.
don't know if he.
We gotta look that up
Yeah,
before
we
we
gotta look it
talk
up because
about
I don't know.
him.
I don't know exactly what the transition is as far as expertise going from a propeller
Propeller to a jet.
to a jet, and but the Sabre jet was the fighter of choice during Korea, but they might have also been flying some World War II era pursuit aircraft also. But yeah, what you say, this is a gentleman who again thought that his he wanted to serve his country, and like you said, he fought in two wars and fortunately came home.
So I just found some information on what he flew.
Okay, so what did he fly?
He flew a Grumman F9F Panther jet.
Okay, okay, it was a jet.
So it
Okay,
was a jet. I got to get a picture of this
so
thing.
he had to be, yeah. So he had to get a little, updated with his skills because I don't know what he flew in World War II, but I know he flew in the Pacific.
Okay, this is kind of a cool looking jet.
I don't
Let
think
me
I ever
get
heard of
a,
that jet.
Here, I'll throw a picture on our screen. It's a small one, but
Hmm. Oh, there you go. Let's see what we got here. Oh, okay, okay, yeah, okay.
it's a jet.
It's a jet, and it's recognizable.
Yeah.
I've seen these in Korean War footage. It's a Navy jet, right? Flew to the Navy.
This particular one is, yes.
I'm
Uh,
just wondering if I'm just wondering if Ted flew a Corsair in World War II because the Navy and the Marines were flying Corsairs
so he was in
as
the
well as other jets.
he was in the Marine Corps. So Ted Williams flew the Grumman F9F Panther during the Korean War, and this is where there's also like a startling piece of trivia just waiting to be told. He was a Marine Corps pilot, completed 37 combat missions, often flying alongside future astronaut John Glenn as his wingman.
Interesting, interesting. That's quite a wingman.
That's a lot of, well, he was John's the wingman. John
Okay.
would go on to do some other flying, like
Hmm.
outside of the atmosphere. Um, and I said he was not seriously injured, and it doesn't say that he was seriously injured, but he did crash land.
Okay.
In February 19th, 1953, his aircraft was hit by enemy fire, forcing him to crash land. Despite the damage, Williams managed to belly land the jet and escape
Mm.
safely.
Nah.
His service in Korea was a continuation of his military career as he had previously trained as a pilot during World War II, flying aircraft such as the Corsair, just as you suggested. Oh,
Yeah,
look, who we got there?
I have my assistant here today
Who's that?
on the screen. This is Clara Balfe.
Clara.
Clara, you gonna sit here? Okay, you sit here.
But we'll talk more about Ted Williams at a later date because there's a lot to talk about there. A bit of a mercurial character, uh, baseball great, the last man to hit 400. What year was that?
I think it was. That's a good question. I have to do my research.
Now we can look that up
He
because
had
that's going to drive me
he had
nuts.
some phenomenal years. He was I think you and I were speaking about him yesterday, and I think his best attribute was probably his eyesight, to pick up the ball coming out of the pitcher's hands.
Could have made him a good
Um,
pilot too.
exactly, exactly. I mean, he was a tall man. He had He had a long swing radius, but yeah, he could get a bat around pretty quick. Uh,
1941.
well, 41, 400.
Well, he had 406.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also remember him, I remember reading that he was batting over 400 and he could have sat him the last series, I guess, the last two or three games of the
Hmm.
season. And he did not want that. And he went out and he hit above that and ended the season at 406.
Right, right,
But there's, as I stated, there's a lot of other stuff to even get into
right, right.
with Ted. Um, what else did you have, Dan?
I wanted to also let the viewers know that we're going to have I think initially it'll be a monthly segment on the podcast regarding Division 3 athletics. We just, obviously D1 gets all the hype and what have you on ESPN and Fox and everything else, but I do think that the D3 athlete and the D3 programs really need to be highlighted, and I think we might be the perfect place to do it. So, what we're going to do is each month we're going to highlight a program, a D3
Hmm.
program, and talk about some D3 athletes who were good enough to make it into the bigs. Mostly football and basketball, uh, and the Olympics.
Hmm.
We did find D3 athletes, so we're going to be doing that. Some coaches.
A couple
Um,
names that you'll recognize, especially in football.
both,
Surprising that that many scouts missed out on just a couple of these guys.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Um,
London Fletcher,
yeah.
who played many years in the NFL, undersized linebacker, played for the Bills for a time.
Mhm.
Pierre Garcon, who was a wideout with the Colts.
Colts
I don't know, did he
and the
play for somebody
Washington,
else? He
Washington.
played for Washington.
Mhm.
And being Bills fans,
Fred
Fred
Jackson.
Jackson, who was a dominant running back for us.
Frankly, should have probably been in the NFL before that. If he
Probably
was
should
that
have,
effective.
yes.
He that guy rarely lost yards.
And he played at Coe College in Iowa, the same school that
Marv Levy
Marv
went to.
Levy was an undergrad at. And so yes, so we're going to highlight the various D3 schools. So
Because we have
you
a
know,
Division 3 athlete in our family,
yes, we do.
or former Division 3.
And we might be highlighting her school when we do the C's.
Oh, all right.
Because not only did Matt's sister, my daughter, play hockey for them. Um,
Castleton State, he means
yes. Stan Van
in
Gundy
Vermont.
was there for a time.
Who
So
coached for the Heat?
I believe he coached for the Heat. Yes, he coached for a few teams, I think.
I can't remember. I
And
want to
now
say
he's a
Phoenix,
now he's a
maybe. I don't remember, but I do remember him bouncing around the league. Uh,
and now he's a broadcaster. Both him
Analyst
and both him and his brother Jeff.
Jeff. This is not a an episode that is I would say lighthearted, but you know uh, I do have I did hear a story about Jeff Van Gundy that's actually pretty hilarious. When he was coaching the Knicks,
Right.
the team plane came back and his car got caught in the jet wash
Yeah.
next to the where they land the plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that's not insult enough, only to find out that your NBA head coach drives a 1995 Honda Civic.
No, jeez. Mhm.
You'd think that the head coach of the Knicks could afford something a
Yeah,
little
you
bit
would
nicer.
think, and I'm
But
sure
hey, maybe he's very
Honda
frugal.
Civic and jet wash probably don't go well.
No, it's very frugal, maybe. Maybe he's just a frugal guy.
Yeah, well,
I remember Stevie Johnson driving his RAV4 around.
yeah, and I know Lou Holtz drove an old clunker for years. Um, well after his coaching days and in his broadcasting days when I'm sure he was making pretty good money. So yes,
That seems like Lou though.
yes,
Seems like something that
he
Lou
was
would
very
do.
Lou was very down to earth. Uh, but yeah, so we're gonna
Still is, right? He's
yes,
still
yes,
alive.
yes, yes, he is. Yes, he is. I believe he's
He's got
either
to be.
in
He's
his
pretty
90s or
old.
approaching 90. Yeah, yeah, he's
Yeah.
been around. And yeah, not only, best known for his years at Notre Dame, but he also coached at Arkansas. He coached at West Virginia.
Was he
Coached
in
a short
South
time in the
Carolina?
NFL. Yes, coached at South Carolina.
Okay, I did
Yes.
remember that.
But one of
Uh,
these college coaches, which this might be another topic down the road, is, Lou was one of those college coaches that just could not make the jump to the NFL because he did spend a little time in New York with the Jets,
well,
but
we
that
got
didn't really go.
there's a couple
And we
of these
know,
guys.
Nick Saban and Steve Spurrier also had not
But
the
I
best experience.
think we're missing out on the biggest one of them all. Dan.
Oh yeah, yes, yes, you're right.
Such a jackass.
Yes,
Urban Meyer
Urban Meyer.
didn't even get
Yes.
out of a season.
Well, you can't. Well, not that you can snow any athlete, but you sure can't snow NFL players because
Yeah, I don't know
that's
what
tough.
he was
That's
thinking.
tough. I don't know. Yeah, that was a
Pretty bad.
wasted season for them.
Um, we have, let's see. Um, we have a Stanley Cup final now.
Edmonton versus the
Florida
Panthers. Yes. Looking forward
rematch.
to it.
Rematch
It
from
is a
last year.
rematch.
I'm very glad Edmonton won.
Yes. So, yeah, that's kind of, for me, that saved the Stanley
That's
Cup's finals
yeah.
because I did not want to see a Dallas, Florida final. I just don't. I want at least one of those teams to be from a traditional hockey market. So, and let's face it, arguably the best player in the world will be on the
Arguably the
ice.
best player ever.
Yes, or
I
ever.
mean,
Yes.
from a pure talent perspective, he might be the most talented player ever.
Well, haven't seen
We're,
him in person. Yeah, his skating is just,
we're
it's
talking
lights
about
out.
Connor McDavid.
Yes, his skating's lights out. I mean, I've never
It's
seen
next
someone.
level. It's beyond the next level. It's
Yeah.
two levels up. I
Well, how
I
many
I
NH?
I'm still convinced that when they do the fastest skating, he's
Yeah.
just not going as fast as he is in a game.
I don't think
I
so.
just
No.
don't know that you can simulate that.
I would.
I know that sounds
I,
stupid.
I'm trying when I watch his games, and I watch quite a few of his games. But yeah, I don't know what's in the head of a defenseman when
As
he's coming
he's
down on him,
barreling down on you.
especially if you're kind of caught and he's pretty much,
What if you're skating up ice, there's a
yeah,
turnover, and now you gotta
yeah, you got
quick
to change
pivot,
direction
flip your
quick.
hips and get going
And
backwards.
he is just,
And he's
yeah,
one step and at full speed
hmm. And he cycles the puck by himself. Um,
because he can.
I was telling you, I was telling you when, we saw him play last season in Tampa, where he would come down and he actually did two complete circles of the ozone and then, drop past the Draisaitl and a
Yeah,
shot on goal.
he's a real
So
slouch too.
I know. So it's going to be a fun series. Unfortunately, they lost Zach Hyman to an injury,
I
so
did see he's done for the season pretty
they're going to
much.
have to find someone to fill that gap.
We'll
But
see if Skinner can maybe fill that gap.
no, this might be his
Maybe
chance.
perfect
This
opportunity.
might be his
The
opportunity.
guy that's
Yes.
never touched the playoffs is now gets to go to a Stanley Cup.
That's right. So we'll see. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then
Looking
we're
forward
waiting
to
on
it.
the NBA side for who's going to be playing there. Still waiting on at the time of taping right now. Knicks Pacers is still going on.
The next one last night, I
Hmm.
believe, right?
Yep.
Well, they had to have won because they
Yep.
extended the series.
Hmm.
And I haven't watched the other side. Where are we? Update us on The Western Conference.
It's done.
Is it done?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
Minnesota
oh,
lost to
Minnesota?
OKC.
Okay. Okay. Season
Full
it.
circle
Okay.
back to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, there we go.
Uh,
There we go.
who whose best player is Canadian?
Yes. Yes.
SGA is Canadian, and they're pretty fun to watch actually.
I
I've
haven't really
watched them.
watched them
I've
much. I
watched
haven't watched them
them.
much.
They're Chet Holmgren, horrible name, but and he is really thin, but he's talented. He can knock down jump shots. He's can grab boards. He can go to the hoop, but he really pulls those big men out
Right.
and allows their other even more athletic players to really attack the hoop. So they're pretty fun to watch, and they pretty much kicked the shit out of Minnesota, who was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I expected them to put up a bigger fight, but admittedly, I only started really watching more NBA near the end of the season and into these
Yeah.
playoffs.
Being a Celtic fan, I kind of
Lost
once
interest.
once they went out, kind of you know kind of I lost some interest, but I'll probably catch some of the
I
finals.
think that, I think, and I'm curious what you think about this, as we kind of pivot to some different stuff.
Right.
Um, I think that sport is the one that is going to have the biggest, that has the possibility of being like the best to watch. And I'm pretty sure you can already watch it in virtual reality, like you're courtside.
Yeah.
So, like, if that's doable, A, why haven't I done it yet?
Right.
Because I should
Right.
try that. Uh, and B, why haven't I heard more about it?
Right. Right.
I could have sworn that there was an NBA app or something where you could, on your Oculus, you could watch games
Hmm.
and stuff.
I thought
But
there was. I do.
I mean, I guess I could just ask the internet, but I
I do think you're right, but as far as the watchability, I
like
would
think
say
about how cool, especially with the way that they change the courts sometimes this year when
right.
they did that
Right.
mid-season
Oh
tournament.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
uniforms are, I think the NBA is doing the best job of kind of like morphing their brands. You know, their
Hmm.
teams can have a
Right.
whole variety of different outfits and
Right.
logos and color schemes, and that's what these guys do. That's what the
Right.
Premier League does.
Yeah.
That's what all the
Yeah.
big soccer teams do overseas.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a smart way to do it if you want to sell more stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And,
I think the
baseball's
NBA is they're the furthest along of the American sports sport.
right. Right. Yeah, because baseball does a special
The
city
City Connect,
edition.
the City
Yeah.
Connect,
Yeah, the City
City Connect.
Connect. So baseball has woken up and realized you want to sell more jerseys. That's what you need to do.
Hmm.
The NFL, I believe, most teams have like three now.
Well, they got the color rush.
Look at the color rush. The Bills
I
are gonna
still
be all
think the
red.
NFL just why aren't you doing more with that?
Yeah, I know, I know.
Why you want to
NBA is
keep the
good. Yeah,
purity of the
NBA is good.
game? It's like, come on.
Hockey's doing the third jersey.
They're doing third jerseys, but like, I don't know. Isn't Gary Bettman supposed to be some kind of
He's
effing
supposed to
marketing
be a
genius?
marketing wizard, but I don't
Look at
see a lot
this.
of marketing.
3 episodes in, and we've already bitched about him twice.
And getting back to watchability of the sports, I agree with you that I think basketball and probably football are the two sports that are really you can still watch on TV, especially
Yeah.
with the technology of today,
And
and really feel like
have
you're there.
most of that. Yeah.
Hockey, unfortunately, is probably the worst because it's really
Mhm.
difficult to follow a puck on TV,
And I know it's a black puck on white ice, but it doesn't matter.
but it still
It,
moves
it's
so
it's hard to
fast.
it's
Yeah.
it's I think it's hard to follow, especially when it's alongside the near boards and you can't
Hmm.
see it. But also you don't you can't appreciate the speed. Uh,
Right. No, you can't. You can't. You
Speed
just
is
don't get it on TV.
way different
Yeah,
in
when you're down
hockey.
at when you're down on like the 100 level in an arena and
If
you
they
see
like
the
15 rows
speed,
up, you will see your neck will hurt from the
I
back and
know.
forth because it's it's just something that you have to see live.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
And I
They're
know it's
actually having
good.
just I just was saw this yesterday. They're actually having an outdoor game here in Tampa next year. Going to be at Raymond James Stadium.
The technology is that good now?
I guess so. I don't know. It's going to be like obviously it's during the hockey season, or probably around the first of the year. It's not the New Year's game, but it's around that time. But even then, I don't know. You're still talking, and it could very possibly be 80 degrees. So I don't know.
That
I
must
don't know about
be.
the ice. That would be interesting.
I would really hate to see somebody get a serious
And
knee
I
injury.
don't know. I think they're playing. I'm assuming they're playing, but I probably should not assume. But I'm assuming they're playing the Panthers. So it's be all Florida teams. So that would be. I'd like to catch that. I'm just curious how they
It's a
could
bit of a far
pull it
cry
off.
from the first one that
I
we
know they
got
did
to
it in
see.
L.A., didn't they? Didn't they do it at Dodger Stadium?
Yeah, but I don't know how it wasn't 80, was it?
No, it wasn't 80. No. No, that's why I don't know. This will be a challenge, I would say. Whoever the guru is with the NHL who makes ice,
Mhm.
that would be the That's going to be a major challenge. But we'll see.
I imagine they might even have to keep it covered when it's not in use.
I
Keep
know.
it
I'm sure.
cold.
Oh yeah, no,
You
without
can't have the
question.
ice, you can't have the sun beating down on the ice like that. Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, I had something else there that I was going to say, but it escapes me now. Oh, I said I had mentioned that that's a far cry from the first one that we got to see together.
Which is, I think, still the best one. That was that was a
I know
typical
we
Buffalo
lost, but
game.
my biggest fear was that we weren't going to score and I wasn't going to get to hear the horn and 80,000 people. And we at least scored, so I didn't have to worry about that.
80,000 people, snow, and
Cold
didn't
as F.
it went
It
to
was
OT.
cold.
It went to OT, and was it Crosby that scored the winner against Ryan Miller?
Oh. On a shot that I think he actually whiffed on.
I don't remember the
I
shot,
do. I think he whiffed on it
but
and it went right
you had
between
two of the
Ryan's legs.
NHL greats. So hey, it was a fun time.
Yeah.
It was a fun game.
That was a game you don't know this, but that's probably the most hungover I've ever been, was that game. And I remember because we had some people that were supposed to come with us too, that we went out the night before and
No, they
some people
couldn't
just
make it.
some people just weren't gonna make it.
No,
Yeah.
that was definitely worth it. I really enjoyed that game. That was a fun game. Glad we were there.
Yeah.
And I hear the Sabres are so that's another reason. Hopefully their fortunes improve because I hear Pagula would like to see a game at the new stadium,
Well,
the
of
hockey game.
course.
So so they got a year to
I'd like to see a competent hockey team.
straighten this whole thing out. Well, yeah, they better find a way.
I'd like to see a competent team. So I don't know, put a competent team on the ice and I'll start caring about
hmm
it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean,
I
I just
just
can't. They're just a very hard team to watch.
it drives me nuts that we have, we're such a small market, but we're still one of the biggest hockey markets in North America, I feel like.
Every year, I don't know about this current season, but
Probably
every
not this year.
year we lead the league in postseason viewing.
Probably not this year.
And we're not even in the playoffs. I haven't been there in what, 14 seasons now?
I think 2013 was the last time.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because doing the research for the McGillney story, I got into all the memories of these great teams and players that we had here.
Mm.
And we have a great tradition and legacy. And it's a shame
That we're where we are
that
right
we're
now.
where we're at. We're the joke of the league. People don't want to come here to play, and it's not because of the weather or the taxes. It's because of the fact that the team is in this losing spiral, and they
Mm.
can't seem to fix it. So, and
Yeah, I don't want to hear
according
about
to
palm trees and kiss my
and
ass.
according to who's the CBC reporter? Um, Elliot Friedman. According to Elliot Friedman, the Sabres have done everything that other teams do, and everybody else finds a way. Like this year, I think the team that was very improved was Ottawa,
Yeah.
who 2 years ago were terrible. And, you know, we just can't seem to get it together. I don't know what the story is, but
How
things
are we
need to
doing the same? How
change.
are we doing the same thing as everyone else?
Well, I think Friedman was saying, with the way we did the rebuilds and all that, but we allegedly have all these great prospects, but
Great
I'm not
prospects are
I'm
just
I'm
what
not
are just
seeing
that.
I'm
They're
not
great
seeing.
prospects until they're not great prospects and they're great pros. But I'm not.
Let me ask you this. I want to hear your opinion of this because I've been thinking about this when I was watching the NFL draft this year.
Mhm.
The NFL, especially with the top picks, don't have many whiffs. Most of those players, with the exception of maybe a quarterback once in a while, they make the roster and they play. And they're usually very good at what they do.
You're talking about top 10?
Well, I'm just talking about the top, like the first and second round picks in the NFL compared to the NHL.
Well, the NHL's always been more of a crapshoot because of the age that you're drafting them at, right?
Yes.
For the most part.
Well, what I'm getting at is, are our prospects as good as we think they are?
We have a rich modern history of falling in love with our prospects, and I think thinking that they're worth more than they are.
Yeah, I agree
Which
with you there.
why
Yeah, I
I
agree.
was happy to see that. Not happy's the wrong word, but I was not alarmed to see that we had traded Matthew Savoy to Edmonton and gotten Ryan McLeod back. Because
Hmm.
Ryan McLeod would be right now a very big part of that team. And we
Yeah,
got a piece. But the problem is that we can't seem to put an actual NHL roster together. It seems like we can put two or three lines together, but not a full roster. And are we spending to the cap? No.
this
But
is where I'm.
are we
Yeah,
spending, are we not spending to the cap because we don't, the players won't come here that we would be able to pay that money? Or are we not doing it because we're trying to save a buck? Don't own a team, try to save money.
right, right. Yeah, I don't know because
I think we don't know that right
I
now,
don't
and
know. Yeah,
I
I just think it's couple down years, you bounce back, you're okay. But
it's been a dozen years,
we have had so many years of just the same BS. Different coach, same BS.
and I know
Different GM,
I'd
same
get to the point where
BS.
I'm like, oh, I'm gonna just barf all over myself, but it's actually worse now because I don't even care.
I don't watch him anymore
I
because
don't care.
it's the same. It's like
I see that Tage scored the golden goal in the World
yeah, the
Championships,
World
and
Championships. First time they won the World
that's
Championships in
great.
90 plus years.
But like, and he does do it for us too. But like, what is the front office doing building the rest of this team around guys like him and
Right,
a couple
right.
other people, Darlene and a few of them. I don't know.
And they always have that teaser, either the 10 game win streak or this year they were playing really well. Remember, they went to the West Coast.
West Coast trip, two
They
games about
won every
500.
game. They come
I
home,
sign up for Fubo.
they
Hold on.
crash.
Hold on. I sign up for Fubo. I'm like, all right, here we go. I got,
Yeah.
it was like I think they were like I, I want to say like 13 and 11. They were
Yeah,
like
they were over
13 and
500.
11.
Yeah.
They were over 500 and I'm like, okay, I said if they're over 500, I'll start to watch them. So I was getting ready to settle in and then they had 11 game losing streak and I said,
Hmm. Yeah.
F this.
Yeah.
I am not going to put my time into that because that's 2.5 hours, three
And I think
hours
in
every game night.
13, I don't know if it was it 11 or was it, I think it was 13 games, they mustered a lousy 2 points.
Yeah, you're probably right. I
So,
just know it was over 10 games.
that's just pathetic. And that pretty much, I
That
hated to tell them, I know
buries
it's
your season.
that buried your season because it's tough to come back when you lose that many games in a
You
row,
only
even
get
though
two
it's
points
early.
in that many opportunities to gain
Hmm.
points.
Yeah. So that's not the formula to winning, but to go back what you said earlier, the construction of the roster has just been terrible.
It's weird.
It is weird because you don't have four NHL quality lines.
Nor do you arguably have three NHL quality defensive pairings,
No, you don't.
which is
No,
weird
you don't.
because you have one of the best defensemen in the league,
Hmm. Hmm.
but you also manage to, and you still don't have a goaltender. And maybe that's really the issue because a great goaltender could probably get this team to the playoffs. Good goaltending, and I think some intelligent pieces should get them there. But it's like
You would
that
think,
doesn't seem that hard, and they've managed to screw it up
right?
so many times in the past dozen years. It's maddening. It's maddening.
It
Do
is that it is.
you have anything else to touch on this evening?
I think we're good. Well, I
Okay.
can to finish up. I just want to again remind the viewers that watch our D3 segments. I think you'll enjoy them. It's something you probably haven't seen anywhere, but I certainly think these athletes um, should be highlighted because, really the difference between a D1 and a D3 athlete is, in many cases, simply size. It certainly
Hmm.
isn't skill and desire to win. So,
Well, it could be skill.
well, it could be skill to a degree,
It is skill, but
but
not a desire to win. Probably not. You know.
I'll tell you a story. And I'm not going to name names, but I know you know him. He wanted to play. He had his heart set on playing at Penn State, and he was a very good high school player. He might have been in your class. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Played fullback and defensive tackle, and had a brilliant high school career. Penn State, he got the visit from Penn State, but the assistant coach who made the visit basically told him and his parents that, at the time it was Joe Paterno, that Paterno's vision of a defensive tackle is 6'4", 6'5", 300 pounds. Um, this young man was about 5'8" and probably 252, between 250, 280, but did not play for Penn State, but did have a great career at and my I his the name of the school. Oh, at Union College. So there you go. So
Hmm. Oh, I did not know that.
yeah, yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. He played it. He played every game. Played as a freshman. Played through his senior year. I believe, got an engineering degree from them. So things worked out. But
I haven't heard from him in
haven't you?
years.
Yeah,
No,
I don't even know where he is.
no idea. Built like a fire hydrant.
He is. I remember him
You,
playing. I remember him playing for
but
the high school.
I think it's kind of silly to want defensive tackles that are really tall.
I know. I know.
Wouldn't you want people with low center of gravity that are hard to
I
move?
I would because a tall player is easy to get into his breastplate.
I'm
If you're an
thinking like
old lineman,
5'10", 5'10", 5'9", and if you could find somebody that was 300 pounds that it must like had the strength to eat blocks.
the D1 player or D1 coaches are locked into this view of the world, and
That's how guys like
it,
Cooper Cup end up
it leaves a
at,
lot of guys out. Yes.
where did he play at?
And where did he? I don't know where Cooper Cup played at. Where did he play?
Like Eastern Oregon or something.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Where did Eastern Washington?
Oh, okay, okay.
He set
Which is
multiple
a good, I
FCS
think it's a,
records for
yeah,
receiving yards,
yeah,
receptions, and touchdowns. He won the Walter Payton Award in 2015.
yeah, they are a very good FCS school. I remember seeing some of their games in the postseason.
You got to find the highlights of him playing it with Eastern Washington against Oregon. He had like 200 something odd yards receiving. He was uncoverable.
And what's that school that what's his name played at? Well, Garoppolo played there, I believe. And
Hmm.
is it Eastern Illinois?
Oh, what is their name? I think you're right. Jimmy Garoppolo,
Yeah, he played there, and
Eastern Illinois University. Yeah.
so did what's his name from Jim Nance's partner. His name is Tony Romo.
Oh,
He played at Eastern Illinois too.
you wouldn't think of Tony Romo before Jimmy Garoppolo.
I know. I just couldn't think of the name. But how do those two end up at? Oh, I don't even know if Eastern Illinois is a. I don't know if it's a D3 school. I don't
It's
know if
an
it's a
FC.
D2
No, it's an
school.
FCS school.
It's an FCS school. Okay.
So
Okay. So
it's
they are
it's
bigger than I thought.
it's
Okay.
D1, but it's not the D1. It's what is that
Yeah. It's
considered?
FCS. What's FCS? Yeah.
Is that what they just call it now? It's
Yeah.
not in
Yeah.
the bowl championship series.
It's FBS, which are your big schools,
Yeah.
because it's the bowls. It's
Bowls,
the bowl series. And
and
then
this is the
FCS
championship
has an
series
actual championship, a real championship,
with a bracket.
which we need to discuss that too at some point down the
Well, I
road
think
about
we're
the
almost there. We're almost there. It's
because
taken them too long, but we're almost there.
yeah, and we're getting there.
Um, all right. So, do we have any ideas for next episode?
The next episode,
Oh,
yes,
yes, we do.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Do you know which one?
Oh, I don't think I want to step on it.
Were we doing?
I don't want to step on it.
Okay, are we doing the? Well, are we doing the one with Joe Madden, the Joe Madden story
Ooh,
about the
I was thinking of
about
something
when
else,
to
but
best use your closer?
no, I was thinking of a different one actually.
Oh,
We could talk about it
yeah, we'll talk about
offline.
it off air.
Yeah, I could say something. It would just be more cryptic language that is too inside baseball for anyone other than us. So,
We'll figure
um,
something out.
yes, we do have something, and we have talked about it. You just don't remember right now. So, thank you for joining us, and that is scene.